Hey everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Career Corner. My name is Jeremy Altman. I'm the host and I'm president of Career Resource Consultants. And we're a consulting company focused on helping those looking to change careers as well as job seekers in the throes of a job search. Career Corner, this is our inaugural show where I'll be speaking with opinion leaders, subject matter experts, and C-suite executives, really diving into career growth and advice, hiring practices, and the do's and don'ts in a concerted job search. So sit back. I hope this is going to be a very exciting endeavor that we're beginning to create, again, to provide added value to you, and I hope it is helpful. So today's inaugural guest is Mike Cameron. He is CEO of Farfield Systems, a Florida-based company started in 2002 with clients around the country. They're focused on IT services, IT acquisition support, as well as cybersecurity. Hi, Mike. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Jeremy. Glad to be with you today.
Well, I really appreciate the fact that you're our inaugural guest. So I really look forward to speaking with you and really having you be able to help some of our audience in some of the things that you've done as a hiring manager, but also very much how your career has progressed and how maybe others can kind of glean some information from that. So first and foremost, talk to me a little bit about Farfield Systems.
Yeah, Farfield started back in 2002. The founder is a Marine Corps veteran who really just wanted to build a company that would sort of live up to the value proposition that we would be the company that our customers want to work with and our employees want to work for, provide high value IT services, as well as provide high quality employment for our staff.
Okay, and how many employees?
Probably about 30 to 35 right now.
Okay, so let me ask you, and let's kind of just dive right in. You're a smaller company. Obviously, hiring is important, but if you can kind of talk about how important the hiring process is for a smaller company, that would be very helpful.
Well, we're a professional services company, so for us, the product is really the skills, the attitude, and the knowledge and experience of our people. So hiring is everything for us.
Okay, you, I think, had mentioned when we were talking earlier that, a bad hire can almost literally cripple a company. I mean, is that kind of some of the thought?
It can take years to recover from a bad hire.
Before diving deep into the hiring, talk to me a little bit about your evolution as a hiring manager so that they can kind of glean, what you've done as you've moved up into a CEO role.
Yeah, sure. I started my career as an engineer, so my first exposure to the hiring process was providing technical evaluations of resumes, helping, select candidates to come in for interviews. As you start to get a little more experience, you start participating in the interviews, and then as you move up through the chain, you're really becoming the hiring manager, first at small projects, and then eventually, at large P&L center or company scale.
Okay. All right. So good. So let's then dive into the hiring. And what are the 2 or 3 most important traits you look for when you're hiring? And if we could maybe even delineate that a little and break it down into maybe more of an entry level, kind of a mid management level, and then the senior or C-suite level. So let's start at the entry level. What is it that you look for?
I think with junior hires, entry level people, the main thing I'm looking for is the attitude. Are they curious? Are they passionate about starting their career? Do they know what they want out of their first job? And that may be a tall order to ask for a lot of people maybe right out of college or transitioning out of high school, the military, whatever. But if they have that curiosity and an enthusiasm for getting their career started, that's what I look for.
Yeah, you had talked to me earlier about that and really wrung a chord. So I'm really glad that you were able to dive into that curiosity piece. So people out there understand, we don't want robots, right? We want people that want to continue to learn. And that curiosity piece, I hadn't heard that before. And that's why it really wrung a chord with me. So if you could then go up into the middle management area, is there anything else and different that you look for there?
Yeah, by the time someone is mid-career or late early career, what I'm looking for is a progression of roles and responsibilities. I want to see people that are taking their early experience and building on it, maybe either increasing the role and the responsibility that they carry in a particular track, or maybe even branching into some adjacent tracks. But I want to see some progression.
Okay. And we had a lengthy discussion. I want to talk a little bit about it. Kind of about, two individuals or two candidates that are on two different tracks, right? One has been with the company and has been in that company and in that role for a good 15 years, let's say. And you take that person and then you compare them to an individual that has been, let's say, at 5 different companies for 3 years each, but similar roles, right? They haven't been moving up the ladder, but they've continued to move up maybe in compensation. What delineates the two? Who do you kind of gravitate toward? I mean, I know what I used to do in recruiting was, when I saw someone that had longevity at a company, that was a positive to me. But I also know that that can also be somewhat limiting because you aren't exposed to new, landscapes. So please talk to me about all of that.
Well, yeah, it goes back to the notion of progression. If someone has had a series of roles with progressive responsibility, it doesn't matter as much as if those roles occurred in the same company or in different companies. It's the progression that really counts. Somebody that's been in the same role several times over doesn't really have the cumulative years of experience. They have 3 or 4 years of experience several times over. And often those people start to run up against the ceiling for salaries for their skills. And often people are changing jobs, trying to reset the salary figure rather than looking for that next step in their career progression. And that can be problematic.
So in other words, the individual that's been there for 10 years has been very proficient during that time, but they're getting 2%, 3% raises year over year. They're not getting a recalibrated, 15% increase because they went across the street, which, as you said, kind of resets their salary scale, which could begin to price them out of the market.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we talked about entry level. We've kind of talked about mid. Is there anything that, you look for somewhat differently if you're looking for someone that's sitting next to the table, next to you at the table, at the C-suite table?
Yeah, absolutely. When people get to the executive level, I'm no longer looking at them for their technical skills. Everybody has something in their background, but at that level, what I'm really looking for is their ability to be effective through others. Can you make the people around you more effective? Perhaps even if you're not the one in charge, there's a notion, and I love this phrase, it's called effectively subordinate. Can you have executive level impact whether you're leading a team or part of a team? And if you're part of a team, I really look for the ability to make those around you more effective. To me, that ability is what really sets effective executives apart.
And obviously, in the interviewing process, they have to be able to show you concrete examples of how they've been able to do that as they've moved up the ranks. Is that accurate?
Yeah, the biggest tell, if you will, is whether when they describe their experience, if they describe it in the first person, I did this, I did this, I did this, or if they talk about, I was on a team that did this, and this is what we did.
I can't agree more. I mean, it's amazing. I do a lot of mock interviews with my clients to try and prepare them. And the I versus the we is very, very obvious. And with that, I need to make sure that they understand, A, that they need to change their mindset to we, and to believe it. It's one thing to say we. It's another thing to actually feel that, team orientation these days seems to be it, right? Cross-functional communication. If people don't know how to communicate within departments and cross-functionally, they're not going to move ahead these days. True?
Right. Absolutely. And I think it also speaks to leadership confidence. If you think the only way you can lead is from the front of the pack, then that's kind of a limiting view.
And I think that's something for people to hear, because most people feel that if they go from behind and watch lead and kind of help from there and kind of nudge and support, that they're not a leader, right? They have to be out front. So it's only really the true confident ones, maybe, that can actually take a step back and lead from behind.
Yeah, and to me, that is the defining characteristic of an executive.
Okay, wonderful to know. So what advice would you give to applicants or to candidates as they begin to enter the the interviewing process? And let's kind of go, you do it however you want, if you kind of want to delineate again with those 3 levels, or if you just want to kind of make an overarching comment on that.
Yeah, I'll lump the 3 together for now and give the very, the brand new entry level a bit of a pass, because, coming right out of college, a job is the goal. But once you get past that point, what I really look for is someone who can tell me why they want the job that they're interviewing for. Do you know why you're here? Are you wasting my time and yours by not knowing what the company does, what the job entails, and how you would fit into that? So the very first thing I look for is an answer to the question, a fairly crisp answer: why do you want this job?
And with that, percentage-wise, how many people kind of flounder?
Most people. That's why those who don't flounder really stand out.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you all are listening, guys. Very interesting stuff. Have your hiring parameters and practices changed over time? Have the practices evolved to create greater hiring success? I mean, obviously, the goal is to have successful hires, if you've stated before to me, and I really, grasped and understood that a bad hire can really hurt a company, set a company back. Have you learned and done things differently to be able to, be better at the hiring process, and what they are?
Yeah, that's a great question. Years ago, I was really interviewing the resume. Tell me about this, tell me about that, tell me how you did that. Now I spend maybe 5 minutes on the resume when I talk to a candidate. If I'm going to spend 45 minutes with somebody, the first 5 minutes will be a few questions about the resume, just to get a sense of, is the resume real? Is there some inflation in there? Once I decide that, the resume is a good exemplar of the candidate, I don't talk about it anymore. I talk about the individual. I really want to understand, kind of, again, why they want the job, why they might want to come work for Farfield. Do they understand Farfield's culture enough to be able to have a conversation about that? Or maybe that should be the topic of the interview. But it's really about understanding the individual. What are their career aspirations? Are they a good fit for us? And more importantly, am I getting them the information to help them determine if we're a good fit for them? Do they have questions about who we are that will allow them to determine if we're a good fit for them?
Right. I found that, again, when I'm working with my clients in this fashion, sometimes they're really reticent to ask questions. They're there to probably share their value, share their value, share their value. Did I do good? Did I do good? Did I do good? Right. And it's not that. It's share your value and then ask a question to learn more. As I tell the people that I work with, answer, ask, learn. And so if you can do that, it turns into a conversation, and the conversations are the best interviews in the world, because at that point, all the barriers have lowered, and 2 people hopefully get to know each other. And it sounds like that's what you are really looking for.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. If that's your main message to the folks that you work with, then God love you, because that's what they need to hear. The worst interview in the world is when I get done asking a few questions to the candidate, and then I ask them, what questions do you have for me? And they have none. Right. Because most people, I think, should, or hopefully do, realize the whole purpose of the resume is to create enough interest that you get to the interview. Right. Once you get to the interview, it's a conversation, as you said. And if you don't have anything to contribute to the conversation, you're certainly fixing my view of your desirability as a candidate.
Excellent. I appreciate your saying that. Going into some of your hiring practices, how do you seek out and uncover talent?
The absolute best way to find new talent is referrals from current employees. And we even get several referrals a month from previous employees who, moved on because that's the direction their career took them, but they still have good things to say about the company and refer people to us. And then we work through professional affiliations and organizations that we belong to. And then, kind of the more mechanical pieces, we're on the job boards. LinkedIn is a very good resource for us.
Okay. Now, I know when we spoke earlier, you had also mentioned that, your first connects on LinkedIn.
Sorry about that. Answering machine kicked on.
No worries.
That's why we edit.
Or maybe not. But with
I'm game either way.
So when we were talking earlier about this, you had also mentioned that your first connects you really look through first on LinkedIn. And I found that really interesting because I think people don't understand the power of LinkedIn sometimes and the power of connecting to high-level individuals. So can you kind of talk to me about that? I mean, you did mention that, right, about how you kind of sifted through that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I think the first thing people should realize is LinkedIn is not Facebook. It really is designed as a professional networking tool. A great example, just yesterday afternoon, I was contacted by somebody in Arizona who had spotted me through a mutual connection on LinkedIn. They'll be transitioning out of the military in the summer, and they reached out and started a conversation. That's the power of LinkedIn is, it's Kevin Bacon. It's how many degrees of separation are you from the person who may offer you a job? And LinkedIn keeps that number pretty low. So,
Right.
6 degrees of separation on LinkedIn, you usually 2 at most. So
Absolutely.
It's a very powerful tool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about the supply and demand for talent in your industry, in your universe.
Oh, it's terrible. Right now, especially for IT and cybersecurity professionals, everybody's hiring.
Right.
Everybody needs the same skill set. They're looking for the same people. So at any given time, the labor supply, think of it as a pond, is a certain size. Every day, there are more and more people fishing in that pond, and we're all looking for the same people.
Okay.
And that's why I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the differentiator being, the company culture and all of the intangibles rather than just the job itself, because we're all offering the same kinds of jobs to the same people.
Okay, so that kind of leads me into the next question then is how are you setting yourself apart?
We really try to create a value proposition with the employees that it really, and it can sound trite until you see it in practice, but it really is sort of a small village feel. We still have people that have left the company 2 or 3 years ago that reach back and say, hey, I just wanted to stay in touch, really enjoyed my time there. What kind of people are you looking for? So to me, it's all about the employment experience. It goes beyond just being a job. We offer flexible compensation models so that people at different stages in their career or with different lifestyle needs can be accommodated. We try to keep the proposition as flexible as possible, but stay true to our culture and our client delivery.
And I think we talked a little bit about, and you've certainly shared with me your priority to brand and to brand Farfield Systems. So I'm asking you, what are you and Farfield Systems doing now to become an even more desirable company and be able to pull, from competitors?
Sure. I think one of the big things that we're doing is we're staying very focused on our service offerings and our delivery, but we're deliberately diversifying the customer base that we're delivering to. For example, we are currently working with the intelligence community, the Department of Defense, federal civil agencies. We're moving into state agencies, and we've recently started a B2B service offering where our customers will be other companies who may be too small to have their own internal IT resources or just need some surge support. And what that does is it allows us to stay kind of true to who we are as a company, but to provide a diverse set of experiences for our staff, as well as to be able to draw from people in different segments of the labor market, people with clearances, people without clearances, people who want to work for the government, people who prefer to stay more on the commercial side.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. I'd like to take a slight turn now and talk a little bit more about your story. Because again, I think what I'm trying to do with this type of informational interview series is to make sure that we can try and help people that are in the throes of a job search and how to best, prepare and interview and all that, but very much also, have this hit people that are seeing your career and being able to hear some of the things that you did to be able to move up the ladder to where you are now. So you've obviously had a nice move up in your career. If you can talk to me a little bit more about you as a former candidate and how you would stand out in the crowd.
That's a great question. Early in the career, I was probably at the point where a lot of your clients are, where, you go to the job, you explain your skills and background, and you think that's pretty much made the deal. But I was fairly fortunate that early on, I had some very powerful mentors who talked to me more about the triple threat. It's not just the skills you bring, it's the attitude that you bring and the teamwork that you bring. So I started at various points in my career bringing that perspective in and starting to really understand the value of that, and started coming to interviews with questions about those things. How does my experience fit into this position? How would that experience fit into the culture of this company? What changes would I need to anticipate? So I sort of started interviewing the interviewers because I realized that as costly as a bad hire is for the company, accepting the wrong job is also costly for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's wonderful. Is there anything that you would do differently at a high level? So let's say, you're moving into senior management, you're moving into the CEO role. Is there anything that you did at there, moving into that role, either, making yourself available, getting yourself to the right, person at the right time, or prepare differently than you would have for something that might have been a little lower level, move?
Yeah, I think it goes back again to the notion of mentors, and I'll add role models to that as well. I have a fair number of friends who are CEOs of companies, small, mid-size, even some large companies. And I looked at them primarily as role models. They've had the career that I aspired to. And then I looked for the mentors who could help shape my thinking or help me understand the gaps in my thinking so that I was better prepared to build the tools and look for the experiences that could help me follow my role models.
I remember you telling me about taking inventory.
And
if you could talk to me a little bit about that, because it sounds like that was a really important component of how you continued to grow.
Yeah, it was, periodically, and I would like to think that I did it more mindfully than I probably did, but at various points in my career, I would take a career, I call it a career inventory, but it was really looking at the skills and experience that I had accumulated, assessing what track I was on at any given time, again, comparing where I was to the role models that I aspired to emulate, and then looking at what skills and experience was lacking from sort of my repertoire, and then seeking the experiences and the roles that would help me build the tools that I needed to keep moving in the direction I wanted to go. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That sort of skill inventory was huge.
So there, and I guess what I'm trying to tell the folks out there is there was a deliberateness. And I think maybe you poo-poo it a little, saying that, maybe that wasn't the case. But I think if you are doing inventory and then you're out there seeking what you don't have, that's a deliberate act. And to me, that may be the defining factor of what sets some people apart, and keeps them at a certain level versus aspiring to that next level. I mean, do you think that could be some of it?
I absolutely agree. And let me tie that back to the earlier part of the conversation where we talked about being able to articulate why you want a particular job.
What can people learn from your story? And again, I would even say not only just, the good things, but maybe some of the hiccups. But what can, people that are moving up their career and saying, wow, this is the CEO of a small, company that's growing, what can I learn from this individual that will really help me?
Now, I think the most important thing, if I had to put it on a bumper sticker, I'd say it's, every role that you take is part of a progression, and you need to view it as such. When you interview for a job, you should be interviewing, not just for a paycheck, but you're really interviewing for the next step in your career progression, and you should be deliberately interviewing for the positions that will move you in the direction you've decided to take. And part of that is the nature of the job itself, but another part of that is the culture of the company that's offering the job.
Let me ask you, and I didn't put this out there as a question, but I think you'll be able to give some really valuable insight. When I tell my clients to look, begin to create some sort of clarity in what you're looking for and beforehand, right? And, not only your life priorities, not only your career motivations, but what are you looking for within the role? And look at it from a tangible and intangible arena, right? The tangibles are the money and the bonus and your title and all that stuff, benefits. But the intangibles, that's what really can make or break, an experience, and so you look at the executive leadership team, the culture of the company, the product, and is it the mission statement? Is there passion behind the mission statement? So, I mean, what are some of the intangibles as you kind of moved up the ladder and kind of progressed in your career that you'd really look at, not your salary, not your title, but the things that you said, wow, I need and want to join this company?
Again, circling back to the earlier part of the conversation when I mentioned curiosity as one of the attributes that I looked for. I sought out cultures where curiosity and enthusiasm went hand in hand, where it was not only welcomed but encouraged, that you would continually question, how can we do things better? What's the next step in our evolution as a provider to understand how to improve what we do? And it's that curiosity. Cultures either embrace that or they freeze it out. If the culture is so hidebound that there's no room for curiosity, I would head for the hills immediately.
And
so
clearly,
it really depends
go ahead,
on how open the culture is to what you can bring in addition to your skills and experience.
And clearly that starts at the top.
Absolutely.
I mean, it can't be senior level management. It can't be your boss if it's a mid-level manager, that has this utopian, appeal of what they want the company to look like and feel like. It's got to come from the top. And so people, you got to understand, you've got to be able to ask questions to really understand the culture, and if it comes from the top or if it's not. And if it doesn't come from the top, it's going to get stifled somewhere. Going to you and your company, are you hiring at this point?
Absolutely.
Okay. And if so, want to talk to us a little bit about what the roles that you are looking for at this point?
Yeah, it's really a fairly broad spectrum. We're looking for very senior network architects and designers, data center architects. We're looking for mid-career folks who can operate and engineer networks. We're looking for entry-level help for IT support and sustainment. We're looking for data science.
And let me ask you, is this location specific or can this be remote?
Oh, well, we have locations in Ohio, Utah, Texas, Virginia, Maryland. We're adding positions in Washington State starting the 1st of March. So, wherever you are, if you're hearing this, I'd love to hear from you.
And that's my next question. How can they reach out and learn more about the opportunities?
The easiest place is probably to visit our website, www.farfieldsystems.com. We've got a career page. We've recently added, in addition to the job postings that are there, which are a subset of the total number of positions, we've got some hot links there that you can start a conversation with a recruiter. You can apply for positions online. You can identify yourself as someone who just wants to know more about the company. We have an info@Farfield Systems email address. And for transitioning military members, we have a military transition advisor with a link on the website as well. Or you can always find me on LinkedIn.
And you said very military friendly, right? I think you said the owner is a military.
Yeah, the owner is a former Marine. I'm an Air Force veteran. We've got veterans, peppered throughout our staff. So
Awesome. And to emphasize the point, I think you told me you've got 4 offers outstanding right now, correct?
it may be 5 after today, but yeah, there's at any given week, we typically have 3 or 4 offers extended to various folks.
So everyone, Farfield is hiring. There you have it. Well, Mike, is there anything else that you'd like to kind of bring up, or if we can just kind of wind down? I'll give you kind of the floor if you want for a little while.
Not really. I just applaud what you're doing. I think the better prepared job seekers are for the interview and for the set of expectations that folks like I have when I go into the interview room, it's going to enrich the experience for both of us. I think it's going to lead to them finding the job they really want, and it's certainly going to help me find the candidates that we really want. So happy to be part of this and love what you're doing here.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the plug, Mike. Everyone, that takes care of our first session. Again, it was Career Corner. We're hoping to be bringing this every Wednesday, bringing new and exciting guests to be able to bring different vantage points for you to be able to, hopefully strengthen your candidacy, but also understand the nuances of career growth. So this is a show that we're going to be posting on YouTube. And from there, we would absolutely and always appreciate that you subscribe to it. You can see the small button down at the bottom. Please hit that and subscribe, and also like, share, and comment. That's what we're here for. When I see commentary, I'm absolutely going to be, responding to it and really want to engage in this community. So without further ado, I want to say goodbye. I want to again thank you again, Mike, for your time here, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. I'm Jeremy Altman, Career Resource Consultants. Take care. Thanks, Mike.